Welcome to Fantastic Vision. Please subscribe us before you watch today's video. Why does the US constantly try to strangle China? News reports consistently mention restrictions on Chinese chips, and the encirclement of Japan and the Netherlands, creating the illusion that if China lacks even a single raw material, the entire country will be crippled. But is this really the case? A closer look at the global industrial chain reveals that it's often the US itself that's being forced into a corner. Rare earths, gallium and germanium, metals that may sound unfamiliar to us, have long permeated every aspect of Chinese life. They are found in mobile phones, new energy vehicles, and even wind turbines. This goes without saying. High-tech military products like the F-35 fighter jet, stealth coatings, and radar rely heavily on these materials for key components. Most strikingly, 70% of the world's rare earths are produced in China. Even rarer raw materials like gallium and germanium are also produced in China at high purity and with consistent supply. While the US and Australia may have some mines, they are still miles away from matching China's scale and purity. You may remember that a few years ago, the US desperately tried to stop the Netherlands from selling lithography machines and Japan from selling chemical reagents, making it seem as if the world could easily bypass China. But the reality is, if you don't buy from China, you'll soon be out of raw materials. And what about the US opening its own mines? Environmental approvals take at least 10 years, and they are often sued by animal protection organizations, making a single mining project drag on forever. Even more outrageous is that many processing and purification plants are actually still in China. Much of the ore mined in the US and Australia ultimately has to be sent to China for processing. Want to completely break free from China? There's no way around it in the short term. But China has long since moved beyond the lowly, raw material superpower mentality. Do you think China only knows how to mine? In fact, over the past few years, China has made significant upgrades in rare earth extraction, purification, recycling, and environmental protection. Public data shows that rare earth recovery rates have increased from 70% to 90%, while energy consumption has been significantly reduced and wastewater discharge has been reduced by 30%. While these numbers may seem insignificant, what do they actually mean? This means that for the same ton of rare earths, China can purify more high-purity products than other countries, while also being more environmentally friendly and cost-effective. China now produces the world's most challenging high-purity rare earth materials. Even international organizations acknowledge that the technological content and environmental standards of China's rare earth industry chain have skyrocketed in recent years. In contrast, the United States has sought to wean itself off China's rare earths and key raw materials. In 2017, the United States reopened the Mountain Pass rare earth mine in California, ambitiously aiming to establish a domestic supply chain. The result? The ore was mined, but the materials still had to be sent to China for processing and purification. The US Geological Survey itself admits that this link is virtually non-existent in the United States. Furthermore, US environmental laws are fraught with layers of obstruction, approval processes are lengthy, and investment costs are significantly higher than in China. How embarrassing. The mines are right here in China, yet ultimately, they have to rely on Chinese processing. More realistically, the more the US has pushed for decoupling in recent years, the more its businesses have suffered. For example, when the rare earth magnets used in Lockheed Martin's F-35 fighter jet ran out of stock, production lines ground to a halt, even requiring express delivery across the country. Samsung also complained that the rare earth magnets used in its phones must be strictly declared when exported to the United States. If they were found to contain Chinese rare earths, orders would be lost. Dutch photolithography equipment manufacturers were even worse off, having to temporarily replace the magnets in their machines, extending delivery times by more than threefold. The problem is, these mines and processing plants can't be built on a whim. Just as the United States was tightening its containment measures, China's Ministry of Commerce suddenly announced that gallium, germanium, and antimony were directly added to the export control list, specifically targeting the United States. Americans were stunned. This wasn't just a minor issue, it was the lifeblood of the entire high-end manufacturing industry. The United States produces almost no high-purity products of these materials domestically, relying on imports for 90% of them. Suddenly, with the supply cut off overnight, military and chip companies were forced to sift through their inventories to meet the demand. It wasn't just a matter of rising prices, it was simply unavailable. This isn't the end of the story. In 2025, China will tighten the screws, implementing a stricter licensing system for rare earth exports. Metals with complicated names like samarium, europium, and gadolinium will now be sold to whom and how they will be used, making military applications a non-starter. This is far more drastic than the rare earth price hike for 2 weeks in 2010, this time, it's a precise lock. The international market has certainly been shaken, with rare earth prices soaring. But surprisingly, China itself has remained calm this time. Domestic companies can still get raw materials at the same prices as before, and sometimes even receive discounts. Foreign companies hoping to stockpile goods are simply blocked by the new quotas and licensing requirements, leaving prices prohibitive. Furthermore, China has been even more sophisticated this time, distributing export quotas in batches, leaving those hoping to capitalize on the opportunity to speculate with little success. According to industry analysts, this wave of domestic high-end manufacturing has completely secured raw material supplies, further strengthening the supply chains for new energy vehicles, wind power, and robotics. In August 2025, China and the United States temporarily entered a 90-day truce. On the surface, the US breathed a sigh of relief, believing the rare earth crisis was over. However, the application documents piled up, and few were successfully approved. Giants like Lockheed Martin were forced to review their inventory, and even recycle old materials from the 1990s. In China, Huawei was rapidly demonstrating its use of domestically produced chips, demonstrating that its 14 nanometers process could handle large-scale computing tasks, seamlessly circumventing US restrictions. Domestic computing power targets were rapidly increasing, further fueling the supply chain. So, while this competition appears to be a battle over trade and technology, it is actually a competition for industrial upgrading and global influence. In the coming years, industries related to China's rare earths will only grow in popularity. For those living in China, perhaps the most important thing to do is to seize these new opportunities in industry, investment, and employment, and not let them slip by.